Hey there, this is K4A, Knowledge for All educational videos and tutorials, and in this video today we are going to learn how to use convert to vector or convert to bitmap tool in Scratch. In the previous video we have learned the differences between vector and bitmap artwork and sprites, and in short again, vector art can be resized to any size. You can scale it up and make it really huge and it will look the same. It will not lose its quality. It will stay sharp and clean, and you will see the edges of it like it was on smaller sprite. But on the opposite, the bitmap art, which is this girl on the right, that art will lose its quality when you scale it up. In terms of, it will look edged, it will look like blocks, it will look like Minecraft in terms of those small blocks of graphics, and those are called pixels, and you will lose that way some quality if you need to resize artwork. Also, one of the easiest ways to differ the bitmap from vector art is to look which one is photorealistic, which one is like photo made, camera made art, and that is this girl on the right. That is bitmap or raster or pixel art. And the left one, which is like illustrated like cartoon, that's the one on the left. That would be the vector art. So interesting idea on both of those is when you click on costumes for sprite 1, the cat sprite, which is vector art, or sprite 2, which is this Anina dance bitmap art, both of those have some tools on their left side and you can click and use them, and we have explained those for vector art. But we can see that when you click on raster or bitmap art, those icons looks some kind of different, and most of those are same. So if I have select button and select tool to select parts or groups of vector art, I can do the same here when I select the select tool and pick something on raster art. But the difference is that when I do that, I cannot select groups. I will have to click, drag and select some piece of this art, this sprite, and it will look strange in terms of, as we have just explained, you cannot pick groups or parts because these groups on vector art, they are made differently, but on the raster art you actually pick pixels, a group of pixels. So it's always like a block of small squares. But the whole idea here is just to show you that you can use some kind of tools both for vector and raster art, although they are not the same and they do not work completely the same. So for example, here is the eraser. They are still very similar. Another thing which you can see is that we have 8 tools for raster or bitmap art and 9 tools for vector art. The one which is missing here for this bitmap sprite is this tool which is called reshape, and we have it in vector art. So in vector art we can click on some part of the sprite and reshape it by moving these control points which we have learned before. We don't have that option for bitmap sprites, so because the bitmap sprite is made of pixels, so there is no reshape tool here. And I had to explain all of this just because the whole idea with the tool which I finally am going to show here depends on the things which I have just explained. And the tool is convert to bitmap. It is this button in your lower left corner when you're in vector sprite, and same when you're in bitmap sprite. Also in your left lower corner there is a button, blue button, you can see where my mouse hovers now. It says convert to vector. So in short, when you want to convert one type of sprite to another, you go to this button. So if my sprite here, this cat, this is vector art, when I want to convert it to bitmap, I click on this button, and vice versa opposite. If my sprite here is bitmap sprite and I want to convert it to vector art, I just click on this button. And you will see the changes here. So take a look now at this vector sprite of the cat. Because it is vector, it is still very sharp and the lines are clear, but when I click on convert to bitmap, look what happens. The whole cat becomes edgy in terms of look. It has now that squares, pixels, pixelated look, and that is because we have converted that vector to bitmap. But look now at this girl here. What do you think when I change it, which is bitmap sprite, to vector, convert to vector, will it become clear and with lines polished and clear and so on? Let me try. No, it doesn't. The only difference, it is still very blocky. It has that realistic look but pixelated, so it stays more or less the same. The only difference is now that I have this reshape tool which we didn't have for vector art. So when I click on this girl now, again I can make some changes like before with paint, fill, brush tool and so on, but this tool now is new. The problem here is, again, this is still very blocky, so no very sharp shapes and lines. I can draw those shapes and lines now with my tools like with brush and lines, but the whole idea here is when I click on, let me draw one line also, but the whole idea here is now when I click on reshape, what do you think? Will I be able to change, for example, the face of this girl or the body with this tool and to turn it more clear and so on, or only these new shapes? Unfortunately, we can only use this tool on the new shapes which we have drawn with vector tools. So now I can use reshape, but only on the shapes which I have drawn with my vector art tools, like line and like brush line. If I click on this girl here, no, I can only move her or paint over her, but she still stays like before. So just don't get confused. When you convert bitmap to vector, that doesn't mean that you will be able to use reshape tool as a new tool in terms of moving those pixels and so on. No, you can only use that if you draw something new on the screen. It's simple as that. And here, same with converting a vector to bitmap. I'm not sure when you're going to use this or why. To be honest, I don't have good ideas or examples. Maybe you have some, you can put that in your comments, but in short, these two buttons, these two tools, convert to bitmap and vector, I will not use very much in my videos and tutorials, or do I have some kind of smart advices on them. I recommend, before you start working on some game or animation, to think about what do you need, what kind of graphics, and then create those type of graphics. So if I, for example, need something which will be scaled, I will pick the vector art. If I need something which needs to look realistic or like real life, I would use Bitmap graphics and use real world camera shots. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in next one. Bye for now.